order, and I will put my mic on.
Can you hear us? What? Can you hear us?
Happily, happily, happily onward into the valley of death. Roses shall I don't know why this is kicked off too. That's right.
That sounds
Right here.
Yep, I think we're good now.
Okay. As council knows, the agenda got modified a couple of times between Friday and noon, I think, today. Any issues with the agenda as it currently stands? One thing I would note is that when we get to the executive session, I do not anticipate asking for a 30-minute session. I think 20 would probably be plenty, so that's what I'll be asking for at that time. With that, can I have a motion to approve the agenda, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Unanimous approval. With regard to the consent agenda, anyone have any questions with regard to the minutes, warrants, or payroll issues? Questions, corrections? Okay, can I have then a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Smith. Discussion? No discussion. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Unanimous approval. At this point, the public comment portion, it's for matters on this meeting's agenda. I will tell you, it is not my intention for us to take any action on the food truck ordinance tonight. We will talk about it some, but if you are here to talk about the food truck ordinance, this would be the time to do it. So anyone, I see Mr. Lang's here, he was here last time as well. You're here with
the hospital.
You're a bodyguard tonight. Okay. Okay, anything else anyone wishes to speak to with regard to matters on tonight's agenda? All right, we will move on from that. And Mr. Neufeld is not here. I thought he was going to be here.
I thought he would too. I'd moved to Alex's item right now then.
Okay.
He thought he'd be here by 5.
I anticipated more people wishing to speak about the food truck ordinance, so I told the attorney to be here at 5:30. So we need to tap dance for a while here. So if Mr. Haynes is willing, is it Mr., Doctor, Chief?
Doctor's fine, but I'm not a doctor.
That sounds impressive.
Alex's works too.
Would you mind coming over to the table, please? Any objection to skipping two items on the agenda and going to, I can't find it now, going to Alex Haynes from St. Luke Hospital? No objection? Okay. Alex, I know what you're here to talk about, and I think the council has all received your letter that was in the packet, so they should have some idea, but you can take it from here.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to come talk with you guys today, and also thank you for putting me at the top of the agenda because I have a son's baseball game I got to go coach for a little bit.
Okay,
So
good.
thanks for doing that. I wanted to just kind of bring this to the attention. I think it's something that's very important, not only to the hospital, but to the city when it comes to preserving what I would call essential services. And so I kind of allude to it in my letter, but just as an overview, you know, hospitals are put in towns because they offer a wide range of services. And so, you know, for St. Luke here specifically, we have a physician clinic and ER and lab and radiology and a home health and a living center, nursing home. So we offer all these services. Some of them contribute what I would call positively to the bottom line financially, and others, you know, we lose money on, but it's a service that needs to be done so those patients don't have to travel those distances to find them. And what we've seen over the last 10 years is typically larger companies, corporations will come into smaller places and they'll kind of carve out those more profitable service lines. So surgeries, imaging, those types of things, and they do them during business hours, and they don't really offer any type of what I would call essential services. So if you think of our emergency room is open 24 hours a day, 365 a year. We staff a provider, nurses, we have lab techs on call 24/7, we have radiology techs on call 24/7, because at 3 a.m. someone may come in and they may need a chest x-ray, or they may need some lab work, whatever that might be. And so we have those people there, and they come in, they provide that service. And yes, we do bill that visit, but as you can imagine, one visit does not cover 12 hours of having that available. And so what I'm proposing, or what I would like to request of the council, would be to look at some zoning that, and you can make it as liberal or as constrictive as you guys may see fit, or as we discuss, but really want to add some protection to decrease someone's ability to come in and offer what would be duplicative services. So if someone was to come in and say, hey, we want to offer radiology and lab here, then the zoning says, okay, well, we have to just do a double check to make sure it's not going to interfere with the essential services. So if someone comes in and they want to do their profitable things, and they want to do them on a limited basis, they don't want to offer them to Medicaid, they don't want to offer them to Medicare because they don't reimburse. They want to just carve out the really profitable things for the people that have really good payment structure, and leave the hospital to do everything that doesn't include that. And as you can imagine, that would be a detriment to the hospital. It would cause us to have to look at some of the things that we offer that are not profitable and probably cut back. So this is a way that a number of towns have addressed this concern, like I said, over the last decade. It doesn't really restrict people from coming. It doesn't stop people from offering healthcare services. It doesn't stop anyone from proposing anything. It just says, hey, let's just do a review and make sure that what they're offering is not going to have a harm on our city or our county as a whole. And so that's kind of the overall request that I have.
Questions for Alex? I'm not in any way, shape, or form asking you to speak for the Hillsborough Hospital or anything like that, but just getting my head around this. Before the Harrington Hospital closed, they opened a satellite something in Hillsborough.
Yep.
Was that the kind of thing you're talking about? Were they kind of cherry picking the money services there?
Yeah, so they came in to offer surgery, and then they had clinic as well, which clinic will drive some of those procedures back to Harrington. But yeah, they were coming in and carving out the financially profitable services. At that time, Hillsborough did change some of their zoning downtown specifically, so that they could not require someone to be under anesthesia while you're on Main Street. And then just in the last month or two, they went ahead and kind of expanded it to include the city, and kind of those reviewing it and getting an extra zoning permit if they want to do some kind of health care.
I'm not asking you to go outside your field as a doctor. Are you familiar at all with, has this type thing been litigated that you're aware of by anybody?
I'm not, Newton has something in place. I know Hillsborough has something in place. Emporia is in the process of putting something in place. That's going through some arbitration. And I'm not an expert in that area, but from my understanding is Stormont Vail has said they're coming in to offer surgeries and imaging and diagnostic in labs. And they tried to put some zoning in place at that time, and it's kind of gridlocked, and they're going through some arbitration and trying to work it out at that point. But I'm not aware of anything as far as litigation would go.
So at this point, again, not trying to put words in your mouth, but you're trying to get ahead of a potential problem.
Correct.
Okay.
And like I said, I would recommend that we leave it to a point that said, hey, we want people to come in, we want people to invest in our healthcare here, but we want to do it as a partnership of saying, how are we gonna add these services? Not come in and say, hey, I see this little thing I can pick out here. And so I do think it's important to go ahead and, you know, we want people here, we need people in Marion County, but we also we're open for business if you want to come and cooperate.
Nobody? Alex, I'm sorry, Mark, did you want to weigh in on anything here? Obviously, we're not being asked to do anything
No,
tonight.
I think
but-
if you, with your approval, we'd probably refer it back to the planning commission to have them work on it.
Poncho wants to ask something, Cisco.
Can I add 2 cents worth on this?
Do you care?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm the treasurer for the board. I'm here in support of this, obviously. But what's essential for this council to understand is like Alex said, we have certain areas that are profitable. We have areas that aren't profitable, but overall, we put everything together. Our hospitals, one, is profitable, two, we serve the community in all these areas. We lose a couple of areas that are profitable, we lose the hospital. It's that simple. So this isn't just trying to protect a couple of things that you know, we want to maintain in the hospital, and, you know, it's not gonna affect us, you know, one way or the other if it really happens. This is as simple as we lose the hospital. So it's not just citywide, it's countywide. So my 2 cents worth.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Mark, maybe I'm just not, what do we have to refer to the zoning commission right now? Don't we need to have a specific?
Well, we would try to get some model language if we
Yes,
could.
okay,
And
okay,
refer that back and have the planning commission start to work on the text change.
okay, okay.
So Alex, do you think like what Hillsborough did is something like that, or some other communities, is that adequate? I mean, to kind of what you're, you know, kind of wanting us to look at, or?
Yeah, I think we have a couple of, you know, I could fast forward Hillsborough's, Emporia's, and Newton's. Newton's is a little limited, but certainly Hillsborough's and Emporia. Hillsborough's was kind of drafted off what Emporia was trying to do as well. So.
Gotcha. Okay.
But we can make it obviously fit for what works for us.
Sounds like, if I understood what you said right, Emporia waited until there was, the
Someone on the
enemy was
way.
at the gate and then tried to do it,
It's
right?
really hard when, yeah, they're coming in and they're promising construction and you know, jobs.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing, and somebody tell me if I'm wrong, is that I would like to ask the city administrator to work with the city attorney and whomever else is appropriate to, if this council is interested in it, come up with a suggested language that then, if we were amenable to do so, we could refer to the zoning commission, planning commission. Okay? Everyone on board with that?
I think it makes sense.
Do you want to do
I think we should.
a motion?
Yeah, I'll make the motion. I would move that we direct the city administrator to work with St. Luke Hospital and our legal representation to prepare a draft ordinance that would provide language protecting duplication of services, or protecting the hospital from others offering duplicate services. That close enough?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Burkholder seconds. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
I guess didn't give you a chance to talk about it, but opposed, nay? Okay, it's unanimous. So, Mark, yell at me, and I don't know anything about medical zoning, but I'll be glad to work with you as well. Okay. Thank you.
Can I
Thank you all.
just make one comment on that?
Yeah.
I think for a community our size, I mean, the hospital that we have, I think is second to none. I think we offer a lot of really vital services up there. So that's, you know, for what you and your staff and the board members all do up there. It's fantastic. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
I would agree, and it seems like you're constantly, reinvesting and upgrading and making improvements, so I think we need to see what we can do to help protect that.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks.
Good luck at baseball. I said good luck at your baseball game.
Yeah, Darren, would you come up, please? We'll go back to number 6 on the agenda, the contract for engineering services that I'm pretty sure was in your packet. And why don't you introduce yourself, young man?
Darren Neufeld, EVH Engineering.
Well done.
Do I get the same offer to yell at you like you offered Alex?
No,
Okay, just checking.
yeah.
We're not going to call you doctor
Yeah.
either.
It could. I'll operate on a road, but that's as far as you want me to operate on anything.
Mark, maybe I could ask you to set the table for us on this, please.
This is an item you previously have entered into and were awarded a grant, crack wave sealing at the runway at the airport. And I know Darren, I think, wrote the application, so this would be to
This is for the,
hire it.
it's for the
Engineering.
design and the construction observation parts
Is it
of
a
that.
90/10?
So the design, on a KDOT aviation project, the design is not included under the grant. So that the 5,000 we're proposing in here would not be, anything would be reimbursable. However, the 15,000, or up to maximum $15,000 for construction observation is included in the grant, so you would get back 90% of that when grant reimbursements come through during construction. So it's kind of an oversight that we forgot to really do this. We should have done this. This project's getting ready to go out to bid. We've already done the design. We've already got it ready to go. We just kind of done, it was kind of an oversight that we never brought the contract to you guys, so.
Thanks for doing that.
We got so many things going with you, sometimes we forget the little ones, so.
Anyone have questions of Darren?
Can you remind me, are we doing full depth patching out there? Is that what
Yeah,
what it's
so
going to be?
what the crack repair is gonna be, and we're actually gonna do the runway and the apron. Well, and we're gonna go as far as the money takes us. What we do is we mill out 2 foot wide, full depth for right around the top of the crack, so whatever shape the crack is. And then prior to that, we'll actually just 1 inch down for 3 feet wide, and then the full depth, the rest of the depth for 2 feet wide. And in that little stair step area that we have, we pack in the hot mix in the lower piece, and then where it's a little bit wider, we lay down a fabric, so that fabric spans those 2 cracks that we've created on either side now, and then an inch hot mix on top of that. So that way, we know the cracks are gonna come back. There's absolutely no doubt about that. They will reopen. The fabric is just to try to slow them down and get us a few more years. Eventually, with this runway being on the replacement list with KDOT Aviation, our hope is that we don't have to make this last, another 10, 15 years, that within maybe 5 to 6, we can actually start seeing some movement on a new runway.
I might just mention, I recognize that, we're going to have to do, to prioritize various needs that the city has. But I think that my impression is that the airport perhaps has been somewhat overlooked in recent times. And one of those things that we are, I'm not a pilot, but my understanding is if you are, there's a source, whether it's a website or whatever, you can look and see where you can buy fuel as you're going across the country, and we're listed as one of those places. But fuel hasn't been available here for months, I guess.
I'd say maybe even up to a year and a half on a guaranteed basis.
And
the system hasn't consistently functioned.
so I really appreciate, Mark has gone to the last couple of airport board meetings, has been talking with those folks and working on the tank, the fuel tank out there needs to be, I guess, replaced or some kind of major repair to it. And Mark was in the process of doing the numbers to what that's going to cost, and Darren came up with information that if we wait till, I don't know, October or something, we go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we go to all the airport board meetings also, just keep in touch with the board out there. And yes, KDOT Aviation accepts, that's how we got this one, accepts that grant application in September. And one of the pluses is when you start talking equipment, like an automated weather station and fueling, those type of things. KDOT Aviation has been very willing to fund those. So what I propose is that when that application period come up again, we apply for a new fueling station in its entirety, which would be a new tank, pumps, credit card reader, the whole thing. Now that wouldn't be a 90-10 like this. I believe those are 85-15. They fund equipment different than they do pavement projects. So, but still, you'd be talking about getting 85% of that new fueling station funded. So, also KDOT Aviation, just so you know, they've been funded at the $5 million level for the last 25 years, since they really went into the funding of airports in the state. And it's been such a successful program economically for the state and the communities that just this last year, the legislature bumped that up, and the governor just signed it here about a month ago to change that funding from $5 million to $15 million a year. So there's going to be the availability, and we're hoping that bleeds over into that new runway project eventually too, the fact that there's going to be that extra $10 million a year. It's also it's a pot of money that cannot be touched. The Secretary of Transportation can't touch it, the legislature can't come back and claim it, and the governor can't move it around either. So it's kind of a locked in.
Unless we need it to get the Chiefs in Kansas.
I don't think a small $10 million is going to do that, Mike.
Nickels and dimes they add up there.
What's your guess what a new fuel
It's a 5,000 gallon tank is what we typically put in. That's what is out there now. And that's the nice size for an aviation fueling system, is a 5,000 gallon tank. What we're doing at a lot of the airports is putting in this self-contained unit. So it's on a giant skid. They can just back a semi up and you drop it right off. And the skid has the tank, and on the other end of it is the pump. Credit card reader, it's all right there. So you just have to run power over to it, and you're good to go. One of those systems for a 5,000 gallon system like this, running about 135,000, 140,000. That's without the electrical, so it depends on how far we got to run electrical. But the unit itself dropped into the airport is that kind of cost. So
Gotcha.
It's pretty standard. There's about 3 companies out there right now that do aviation fueling, 2 of which are out of Wichita. So it's not a huge, it's not like we're having to get it from halfway across the U.S.
And those are pretty readily available? I mean, like
Yeah,
if we were to get something.
If you order it within 4 to 6 months, it's on the ground.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
And obviously, that's not on the agenda for anything tonight. I just was, I think we would have been in a really pickle in trying to decide whether we come up with the money to do that or whether we have to go off of the list of places that you can get fuel. And I think that you would want to be on that list. So hopefully, with Darren's guidance, we'll be able to get that grant.
I just about any time anybody asks for a fueling system in the state, it's been pretty prevalent over the last decade that those get funded. It's just something KDOT Aviation they want everybody to have that availability. So when you ask for that help, it usually comes.
So, having said all that, I will move that we approve the contract so Darren can get paid for the work he's already done a lot of.
At least I haven't sent you the invoice yet. Mark would have got me, or Jan probably would have
That
got
would
me
have
on that
been,
one.
Was that your motion?
my motion was to approve the contract with EBH.
I second the motion.
Any discussion, question? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Motion granted.
Okay.
You got the contract?
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Do you have copies of it, or do you want a copy?
I have a copy of it.
Okay, that's fine.
Maybe-
Appreciate it, and I already signed it, so the copy you have should already have my signature on it.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Darren.
Enjoy the rest of your meeting.
Thanks.
I assume you're Scott? Okay. At this time, I would move that we go into executive session for a period of 20 minutes to deal with an attorney-client matter, subject to attorney-client privilege, specifically with regard to ongoing litigation. I would move that City Administrator Mark McInerney, City Clerk Janet Robinson, and our attorney or representative from the Attorney's Office, Scott Ufford, be with us in the meeting. We'll go out, we'll call it 25 after, so we'll come back in session at 1:45. And for those of you who or didn't get named and are being kicked out, it's hot outside. So if you don't, you can wait out in the bottom of the stairs if you want to, but the old council room upstairs, the air conditioner's on, you're welcome to wait there too. Up to you. It is 6:15, and we are back in regular session. Having ended the executive session, no action to propose at this time. We will continue with the agenda and take up item number 9, the 2025 budget and the revenue neutral rate declaration.
Mayor and council members, in the near future, you'll begin looking at the number for the 2025 budget. And several years ago, the state of Kansas implemented the revenue neutral statute, which means you tax more than you did last year. You have to provide a notice to the taxpayers and the citizens of your community. It looks like the valuation went up from 11,892,223 to 13,052,179. So last year you levied 74.783 mills. The county clerk notifies revenue neutral would be 68.134. So anything over 68.134, you'd have to have a notice and all that. You have to let the county clerk know by July 20th whether you plan on doing going beyond the August 25th deadline. And normally this is probably your budget would be due by October 1, last week of September, give or take. We will have this today's information. It'll be on your July 15th meeting for action. And it's my understanding, this started after I retired from Emporia, but my understanding is most entities recommend you go past a R&R. You don't have to go up, it gives you time for another month's worth of revenue and expenses, probably a month and a half, for you to make a better decision down the road. So that's kind of what I've kind of gathered from most of the entities I've talked to.
So
Any
even
questions? Go
even
ahead.
if we would state that we were going to exceed that, that doesn't necessarily mean that
No.
we have to.
No, it's like in
Gotcha.
the PAC, you could publish your maximum budget, you can always come down.
Gotcha, okay.
Okay. So just on for information tonight,
Yeah,
and
official action, you need to authorize the city clerk to sign the form and take it over to the county by July 20th,
okay, so it'll be on our July,
15th meeting.
okay.
Mark, I just want to make sure that I have the revenue neutral thing. I know every year it seems like there's a little bit of confusion for sure on what it is. It's really tied to the dollar amount
Yes.
of total revenue that we would be bringing in. It's not tied to, I mean, yes, it's tied to the mill levy in terms of what you're levying, but exceeding the revenue neutral rate is if we, for instance, last year had $100,000, just for a round number. This year, if we
$1
levied
more.
$101,000, we would be exceeding the revenue neutral rate.
Yes.
Is that
And with
correct?
this, the county clerk, for all the tax entities, she would have to send out a notice of the hearing and that there could be a hearing on this. I'm guessing you may have been through this the last couple of years.
For the other council
Cool.
members, I'm no expert on it either, but the way I look at it anyway is that your mill levy can stay the same, but if your valuation goes up, that same amount of mills is gonna bring in more money. So if you're going to not adjust your budget to stay at the same amount of money coming in, you need to give the public notice of that, and have a hearing, and hear what they have to say about it. But we're not making that decision tonight, and we won't be making that decision next meeting. We would only be deciding whether to give the notice that we're gonna do it or might do it, so the public has a right to be made aware. Okay, unless there's other questions. Okay, thank you, Mark. Okay, with regard to the mobile food vendor ordinance, I'm curious, have any of you heard from members of the public anything about the
Yes.
meeting last week? Not the meeting, but about the ordinance that was discussed? I'm just curious as to what's the nature of some of the comments.
Most of the comments that I've gotten have been in regards to the 150-foot radius.
Yeah.
And that the public does not seem in favor right now. The emails that I've gotten have and the conversations that I've had are against, or maybe not against it, but they don't like the 150-foot radius. They feel like it would put too much restriction if you start putting a 150-foot radius around every restaurant that we have in town. They feel like it would restrict, it would be overly restrictive about where a food truck would actually be able to set up in town,
It doesn't really leave any room for,
is the concern.
Speak louder.
sorry. It didn't, I was just kind of adding on, it didn't leave any, people are concerned, it won't leave any more room for even food trucks to come in. And I think the other concern, I think people were, I think the 10-hour limit of moving after 10 hours. I've kind of seen that.
That was the issue that I heard from too, is the fact that you'd have to move from the location where it was being vended. And does that apply to your own private property? So if it's on your own private property, does it have to move? And if you are also tied into the fact that if you are a city resident who has that food truck and you're required to be moving it, can you leave it parked at your own residence, or is it going to have to move? Like a question I also kind of came up, like if you're already a city resident paying city taxes, should the same things apply to you too, as far as having to move it every 10 hour, after a 10-hour period? So yeah.
The only other thing that I got is that a lot of people feel like that it's become personal between the businesses in town and, right, the one food truck that everybody knows that we were discussing, right? And I don't think that people are excited that it's become personal in the conversations that I've had. They don't like that we're potentially looking at passing an ordinance based on, potentially, not, I wouldn't say that it's based on that, but that it's in response to some personal, I don't know, fights that have been going on between businesses in town, or businesses in town and out-of-town businesses, let's say.
I get that. I just want to say that when I was contacted about the need to require permits for food trucks, I mean, I think everybody knows Josh Teichman's the one that contacted me, and I've not tried to hide that, and I don't think he has either. But there was nothing personal that I took out of it at that time, other than, I guess, if you want to call one food truck or business against another one, I guess that's personal. But so when I brought it up here, initially, it was that I think we need to have an ordinance and have it make sense. And yes, I'm not trying to deny that there is a personal aspect to it, but I don't think we should be a part of that if we can avoid being a part of that. So I went through, and I'm just going to give you just a brief overview, and then what I hope to do, my hope was that I would have this typed up and distributed so that it could be discussed tonight. I did get done, but I didn't get to the point of getting it typed up. If I could get my old administrative assistant from the court to work again, I'd have had it done for you. But she's one of the only two people in the world that can read my writing. But what I've got some language that I want to present to you, and I have tried to provide either a suggestion or options. And if I don't give options, of course anything's an option, any council member, but I've tried to think of various options. But one is with regard to hours of operation. The hours of operation that are in our current ordinance apply to that current ordinance, which is peddlers and door-to-door type things, canvassers, those. I don't think that the food truck ordinance is bound by that 8 to 8. It makes sense if you're talking about somebody knocking on your front door. It doesn't make sense if you're talking about somebody selling snow cones. And so I'm going to give you a proposal that you're free to change that will address it for food trucks. Days of operation as well, and when I say days of operation, I don't mean, what day of the week. It's like how many days can a vendor get a permit to operate in Marion in a period of time. And I'm going to just give you some blanks that we can all talk about filling in with some language to go with it. I'm going to skip the things that are just cleaning up things. I think we need to do a better job of defining a mobile food unit. Mobile food unit's what's used in that proposed ordinance. And I've heard people say that they think that that other place, gosh dang it, that one place,
Found one place.
Josh's place, would be a mobile food unit. I don't think so. I get it. He can move his food truck, but it's there, hooked in, next to a brick and mortar. So I don't think it applies, but you guys may differ on that. But I'm going to give you the opportunity to do so. The issue with regard to under location, there were a number of, under section 2 of the proposed ordinance, there was location and movement of it that Tim referenced. There was the distance from other restaurants, and I've got 5 options for you here. There's also signage that Tim brought up last time. Accessory structures, that's tables and chairs and stuff. And then I'm going to suggest a new section J that basically would require that the mobile food vendor provide proof they have a minimum of, I said $100,000, but you could say $200,000 or any other number you wanted, in general liability insurance that would cover their premises, their operations, their products, and any personal injuries that might occur. Also, that they have a valid Kansas sales tax license and a valid food server's permit and an inspection review. So those are things that I would propose. That last part, that's exactly what I'm going to propose. But the other, I'm just telling you the areas I've addressed. If there was another area that you thought of, either come up with your own idea for it or let me know if you want me to include it. But I'm going to try to type something up and get it out so that Janet can put it in your packets, and then we can discuss it next meeting. And I would suggest that you bring the proposed ordinance, because I'm going to be referencing sections of it, and you might want to have the city code, the portion of it that deals with the peddlers and canvassers, which is, oh, I did such a good job of clipping things together. Now I can't get to them. Article 2, Section 5, 201 through 214. So, go ahead.
5 point,
Yes, Article 2,
5,
then
201.
Section 5-201 through 214.
Did you have a recommendation on a fee? As
The-
far as,
The fee is actually already set in the other
oh,
ordinance,
okay, gotcha.
and we can modify that, but
Okay.
I was just going to say that my comment on that was going to be the fee's there, it's $10 a day,
Oh,
unless we decide to change it.
Gotcha.
Is there an annual fee too?
No,
It's
ours
one
does not
time.
have an option for that. We'd have to make that change if we wanted to. At least, I don't think it does. I didn't memorize it, Tim.
I could have looked it up, I just hadn't.
So unless somebody else has something to talk about on that, just let you know, I'll try to have something to you next meeting. Okay. That takes us to the public forum. If anyone has anything they'd like to say, the microphone's available. Speak about anything that's on your mind. No one? Okay. Let's go to counselor, department, and staff reports. Mark, anything you never have any, I keep waiting for you to have something really exciting to tell us, and you never do.
No, just happy 4th of July. start.
I don't think it's really exciting. Janet, do you have anything? Okay. Back of the room? Amy?
I don't really have anything.
Tim?
Nothing.
Or Tim?
I'm Zach.
Zach? Tim?
The only thing was, I don't know if you noticed in some of on the city's web, Facebook page, that 2 of our water plant employees completed some of their training for advancing in their knowledge and training in water handling facilities and that. So kudos to them for completing that. That's all that I have.
I don't have anything.
Those employees getting that certification that Tim mentioned, I asked the clerk to put that on the Facebook page and our website. It's just, when we have positives, I just feel like we need to get it out there. And those guys getting that, I think, is a good thing. And we talked about water last meeting, and if we can get to the point where everybody over there is certified at some level, I mean, it can't be a bad thing. So I appreciate your bringing that up, Tim. I don't know if anybody noticed, I was holding these pictures here. Christian Peterson approached me. He is the chairman of the museum board. And I know he talked to Mark for quite a while this morning. And I don't know, Mark, how did you leave that with him? Were you going to?
Probably get back with him. I've not been in the building, and also want to talk to Darren.
Okay. Oh, that's right. Yeah, Darren. But it's pictures of the under the floor at the museum, and I mean, that's pretty ugly. We've got
That last one you looked there with the bricks, that's
You're saying
interesting.
foundation
Not sure that
damage
meets
or
any sort of
structural damage on this?
structural.
yeah, probably
Review.
both. And part of it appears.
We're kind of 2 by 6.
These are just, I can't find the one I was looking for, but there's one that shows the crumbling, the rock wall
Oh, I mean,
would
this is
be on
crumbling.
the east side of that building as you come down the hill, and it's just falling over, which, I would guess water. I mean, I'm far from an engineer, but it wouldn't be a rocket scientist, I don't think. I think that's it, yeah, you can see it.
Do they have a basement, or is it more like a crawl?
Like a crawl
like-
space.
Crawl space.
Is
I mean,
it?
you can stand up in it.
Can you
There's
really?
stuff that's stored down there.
Okay, well, he must be then.
That's, yeah, I don't know where these
That's-
pictures are taken, but yes, there's a full height basement in it that
Okay.
you can, there's stuff stored down there.
You're probably
around the
welcome to
back.
go take a tour, Amy.
I don't know that the basement's under the entire structure, so maybe this is back more kind of into the hill
Yeah.
where there's just a crawl space there.
Do they know who
Oh.
did this?
That's anybody's guess, probably.
Why, you think those beams and stuff should match up?
I mean,
Really, they look like they're buffalo bricks, so I'm sure they're built
stout.
well. Right, they're solid. It's a solid.
I
product.
have an affection for buffalo bricks, the bricks that come from Buffalo, Kansas,
Yeah.
which is right there, Woodson County, and used to go out there to the rock quarry and swim in the rock quarry, and played baseball at Buffalo, Kansas, so,
Okay.
Buffalo bricks.
Yeah, I knew it was a Kansas company.
That's really all I have, other than I went to Kansas City Saturday and took my grandson to his first Royals game. It was the only game they lost in a 4-game series. But we had a good time. So, anything else anyone wants to bring up? All right. Motion to adjourn, please.
I'll make a motion to adjourn today's meeting.
And I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. We are adjourned.
Keep recording.
You want to tell your story about coming to work?